Hi, I'm Bill Simmons, Artistic Director of the Phoenix Theater Cultural Center in downtown Indianapolis. Welcome to another one-on-one with Bill Simmons. I'm actually recording in my daughter's bedroom. She's away at camp, and it's the only quiet place in the house. There's a big storm brewing outside. And I'm with Olivia Lilley. She's the Artistic Director of Prop Theater in Chicago. And like all of us, she's trying to get through this pandemic and figure out like what theater is all about now and in the months and years ahead. So welcome. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, Indianapolis.
So before we started recording, you were talking about like how you think of devised theater and how it's different in Chicago and Indianapolis and New York. And like going forward, like what kind of theater are you excited about creating for our brave new world that's going to emerge from this pandemic?
Oh man. Well, I mean, my kind of like inherent, like the heart of my vision of like the future of like regional theater is that devised new work and new plays are kind of indistinguishable because we can make really, really compelling stories with devised processes and other ways of making. Just because something is devised doesn't mean it's going to be more abstract. I think that breaking down the hierarchies of like how we are telling stories and who is telling the stories is something that's easier to accomplish with devising and with devising practices. And so I think devising needs to become widespread in terms of how we make work. That said, like another element of devising that I think is appealing to everyone is everyone loves concerts and musicals and movies and I mean maybe visual art too, and dance, and devising and devised new works can feature those elements in addition to scenes with people saying words. So it is like it's a little bit more flexible in terms of like what it can end up looking like.
So for lay people who don't know the terms devised theater, like what is an example of like how a devised piece might come together, or how would that work? How does the creation of devised theater occur?
So for me, devising just means that a group of people are assembled before a script is written. So really a group of people come together and perhaps we have a source material, another story we want to tell. Like, for example, right now I'm working on a devised adaptation of the Faust myth. And we're looking at it specifically in how that connects to the gig economy and the medical industrial complex in the Logan Square neighborhood in Chicago. So we have all come together we have a writer, we have a playwright. I'm the director on that process. But we're very interested in what our ensemble thinks and the characters that they want to create. And so this adaptation, this devising will happen together through a series of all different kinds of exercises in which we get our artists to be creative and make choices and play. And then a writer goes away and writes for a while. And then we start developing it like a new play. So that's really like how I would define devising, or at least that's my definition.
So who's in the room or in the space right now with this piece inspired by the Faust story? Is it just a writer and a director and actors, or do you have musicians? Do you have spoken word artists? Do you have dancers? Who's in the room right now with the devising of that piece, or will be?
So we're actually all working over Zoom right now. We're devising. We've been working all July, and we're going to be continuing through August. The ensemble of eight actors. The actors all have various musical talents. Some of them aren't musicians and are very adamant about that. We have a composer. His name's Alec Fan. He's a singer-songwriter. And then we also have our playwright, Tanuja Jagernoth. And we have a dramaturg. Dramaturgs are the best. Sophia Fay.
Yes. What is it? Dude, I think this is so important. I think it's like, for years, I didn't even know what they were, then I knew what they were, but then I hardly ever saw them except like outside of academia or in academia. And I just think dramaturgs are so important. It's like you would never have $100,000 Jaguar without having a reliable mechanic to take it to, right? Or you'd never own a home and just let anybody roof it. You would hire somebody. So what does a dramaturg do for lay people who might be watching this video?
Well, I think a dramaturg is the playwright's like biggest ally and support in terms of just clarifying the story that they want to tell. On our process, I always kind of cultivate a bit of a creative team, like a team of the director, writer, assistant director, and dramaturg. And we end up having meetings once a week outside of our own rehearsal. And we really I create like a very much like a team mentality around that sort of force. But we always try and bring on a dramaturg who has an eye for research, but also is a big listener and can really listen to like what the room is looking for, and then also listen to the writer and really hear what they're looking for from them. Yeah, dramaturgs can play a number of roles. I would say like I often work the most with dramaturgs when I'm not in a process and I am looking for more notes on my script, and so then they'll read it, and then we'll schedule a phone call, and I'll get all their notes, and I'll continue to work, and they end up just being a really great like sounding board, and they really can help you plot out like determine like where your script is and where you want it to go.
I think they're great. We've been working most regularly with Sarah Sleight, who is a dramaturg there in Chicago, and I think you know Sarah Sleight, and
yes.
I know, she's just great. She did wonders with Tom Horan's Pill the Play. She's done wonders with Jennifer Blackmore's play Predictor that was read at Showcase in Atlanta back in December. I just think she is really, really excellent at what she does, because she's able to, like, I can feel when a play has like what I call hiccups, or there are little catches where it's not quite working anymore, but I don't know, I can't diagnose, is it because it's redundant or because the playwright's preaching to the audience, or or we just need to get to the climax to wrap this thing up. And she's like, oh yeah, she said, I can feel that too, and I think it's this. I'm like, great. So that's great. So where is Chicago in its recovery? Or I think the recovery is actually a terrible word, because like I don't think we're in any stretch. I mean, I still think we're in like that. It's the first wave. Like the New York Times or something about 3 weeks ago. It's like the first wave, and I'm like, that's exactly right. So like, what is your prognosis for like Chicago theater and the performing arts in Chicago? Like, when do you think you're going to be coming back? And I know that it's crystal ball gazing, and I've been asking all kinds of people this, and they're like, I just think it's not going to be until, and I started hearing. Right. So what are your thoughts?
I would say that it's been interesting watching theater companies in Chicago pivot to a new plays festival or commissions, or a lot of people are pivoting to new play development, which, I mean, awesome, great. But in terms of like performances coming back, very uncertain. We just all kind of caused a stir and got the show that was trying to open at the Greenhouse this weekend to shut their doors. I definitely think as Prop has just announced that we're leaving our venue. And we're definitely not alone. Like the Mercury Theater in Chicago has closed. IO has closed. We're going to see a lot of, I think, losses of buildings, but it's kind of a weird tradition in Chicago where there are community spaces that come up everywhere in either a house, a bar, a theater, or whatever. And they have a life, and then eventually they get shut down for some reason, and then new ones crop up. So I'm excited for a potential like artistic renaissance when this is over. I'm interested to see like who's gonna hold on in what way, and yeah. But I mean it's good that people are now stopping and having a chance to think and process, because in theater, we often are like, well, what's next? We have a million things to do all the time. So I'm grateful for the time to rest and recalibrate. And also with us, like moving away from having a building, we're starting to kind of reimagine how we do what we do.
that you're like kind of rethinking about like what it could be and what it, I mean, I know this is brand new, and so you may be like, I don't know yet. We just kind of got this news in the last week or so that we're not going to start.
I have to say a lot of our shows have been set in different neighborhoods and are very, very tied to place. So this is almost a natural next step. I mean, I personally am in my own writing, I like place and where something where something is happening. The local culture is a huge part of my world building, and that is something that is, I think, a pillar that also is very prop. You know, it almost felt a little bit. It was hard sometimes to be just doing work at this very traditional looking theater, because some of my audience members from like the Parlor days and the Runaways days they don't want to go to a theater. They want to go to a house. They want to go to a basement, you know, so not everyone crossed over.
I think that's great. I think like the more we let go of the old way of doing things, which I know is terrifying to people, I just think I think we could be heading into a phase where it could be that thrilling, right? To be like, okay, I'm going to somebody's address and I'm going to sit in their, even in their little back. Like I'm going to a show this week. A friend of mine is doing a one-person show. And I'm like, okay, this could be fabulous or it could be a train wreck, but I'm going to be out of doors. I'm going to pack a little cooler. I'm going by myself because I like to see theater sometimes or movies by myself. And I'm just going to sit there by myself and take it all in. And that way, if it's terrible, it's terrible. If it's amazing, it's amazing. But it's something that would never have happened had it not been for this pandemic. And so I'm really kind of excited. And then we're looking at trying to create an outdoor. Now it's a fundraiser, but still it's like a fundraiser in a whole new way. Or it's like, oh, we're going to get rid of like the sit down tables and all of the bullshit, right? And we're going to get to, maybe a little performance, a little mission bid. People are going to be out of doors. They're going to arrive and they're going to have a prepackaged cooler with beer and wine and, you know, maybe cold chicken and potato salad or whatever. And, you know, they can have a table with chairs or they can have a picnic tape blanket or whatever. And I just think these would never have happened if it were not for the pandemic and making artists rethink, like, how do we get the work out there? How do we connect with our donors and artists and just general audience members who love to see the work? So I know that Prop is one of the 31 core theaters on the National New Play Network. The Phoenix Theater is a core theater. There's core theaters, I think, all the way from Juneau, Alaska, all the way to the East Coast, all the way down to Orlando Shakes. So what do you feel like the National New Play Network does for Prop, and what do you see? Because I know the network is going through a big evolution right now, even prior to COVID-19. That's one of my dogs scratching is what you're hearing. It's like ching, ching, ching back there. Oh, yeah, you stayed with us last winter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway.
I would say, like, I mean, I love being a part of the NNPN because it gets me out of just thinking so hyper locally, because Chicago theater is such a world unto itself. Like, we have our own, like, I'd say, like, we have our own, like, celebrities. We have our own, like, because it's just, there are so many theaters in Chicago, and it's so nice to, I mean, it's fun, but I also, like, it's so good to think about theater in a national sense and think about regional theater as a united, like, force, and not just regional theater, meaning, like, the like biggest, like, region, not like just the Guthrie or the Goodman, but like Unicorn and like Cleveland Public Theater and Phoenix and Riverside and like Iowa City, and how like these are like tiny cultural hubs that are doing a lot for their communities. And like, how amazing is it to be able to like do a play that premiered at somewhere else besides New York or LA, or like, and has grown out of somewhere that we don't often hear stories from. I'm like, I just drink coffees. I don't know. I'm like,
no, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think how you just described the network is literally a network of theaters that are both speaking to their local communities, but also connected to one another. And I mean, I've been learning so much about, like, you know, like what Magic Theater is all about in the Bay Area, and I've really come to appreciate Sonia Fernandez's aesthetic there. And I got to see our friend India's creation, Panther Women at Prop Theater. God, when was that? Was that last winter? Like last?
Just in February, yeah.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
I know it does.
And Nicole Burton's. I just thought that Panther Woman was brilliant because it was about the women in the Black Panther movement. But I mean, of course, it makes perfect sense that they weren't just oppressed for being Black women; they were also oppressed by men in their movement who very much treated them, with misogyny, and so it was just really, eye-opening, both as a middle-aged man and as a middle-aged white man, to be like, oh my, I don't even get the level of privilege that I have, and the difficulty that some people in this country, a lot of people in this country, struggle with every day. So that was just a brilliant, and that's what I think was so great about Prop. Is like, you walk in and it was just this like mind-blowing experience that was done with no scenery. It was all movement. It was spoken word. It was dance. It was a little music. I just thought it was just brilliant. So kudos to you for making that happen. And then you the scripted work at 16th Street in Bourbon, Illinois is another core theater.
Yeah, I think also the NNPN is great because it brings people together of different generations. Because I think it is really hard, younger writers in this scene. I think in our country right now there's a huge generational gap, and the more we can come together and actually talk and get to know the work from different generations, and it's really great. And also for a group of people who work at such different theaters. To get the space to try and come together and make policy that will positively affect all of them.
Yeah,
it's such a huge challenge, and I'm learning so much. I also think it's right now we're doing the anti-racist training. Member theaters gather once a week, and it's so interesting. Hearing about other theaters all over the country and how they're feeling in this moment, and what they're doing to try and open their doors to more and more people.
And
yeah.
Are you hopeful about it all?
I am. I think that it's just really hard right now because we're all talking and realizing how different everyone is in terms of where they're at, and but that's good. We have to be honest with each other. We have to hold space for wherever anyone is at, and and I'm a person of color, but I'm very white passing. So as a white passing person, I need to go and I need to support. I need to support. I need to listen. I need to translate. I need to have a lot of compassion and empathy. Because I came to theater through musical theater. I wrote musical theater when I was a teenager, and as not a white cis gay dude, there was a lot of confusion around whenever I found myself in elite spaces, when I was 18, 19, I got into the ASCAP workshop, the Johnny Mercer workshop, where I was being taught by Broadway composers that were all white men. And they I was political. I was let's talk about this, and they just did not know what to make of me. So I'm not alone. There's a lot, part of why BIPOC people are kind of don't really get into theater. Some people do. Obviously some people push ahead, but the reason why so many people avoid it because they don't feel they're wanted. They don't feel they will be welcomed in the space, there's anything for them. They're there's so many monolithic depictions of a culture I'm a part of. Nah, I'm good. So how do we because I literally left musical theater because I was I don't think this is gonna pay off for me, because I'm just working so hard just to get them to see me for what I do. So I ended up becoming a director because that gave you a lot more agency. And moving to Chicago, I wanted to make my own work on my own terms rather than climb a ladder as a directing assistant or whatever. And that's worked. That's paid off. And now that's why I'm in this position, because I was well, I'm not going to play your game, so I'll go play my own game over here. But not everyone has the fortitude to do that. And I'm kind of it shouldn't have been as hard as it was. How can we make it a little less of a harrowing quest to get to that place for for BIPOC artists, you know, in America.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you.
But I think that being aware that like that's why they're not like why more BIPOC people like are not present right now. It's because they didn't feel welcome. So like, how do we acknowledge it? We see it. Now let's do something.
I think that, Olivia, is brilliant right there. It's just to say, you know, now that you're paying attention, look, keep gathering information, but look at how, you know, your school board maybe is set up, or look about how your museum is structured, and look how, you know, just look. I think there's going to be a whole new life cycle that's going to start here with new work. So anyway, that's what I'm hopeful about.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, my version of that is like, so I have a playwright friend, she's someone I met, her name's Ada Elozi, and she writes really like uncomfortable, extremely like Gen Z, like sort of mayhem, aggressive images, like stuff that is like unsettling. And I also have taught her that it's okay to write a character that people don't like. So I'm a bad influence, but I can't wait for the day where Ada's like, oh, I can send my plays out to like this and this theater, and then she and for her to know, oh, they'll respond and they might actually like it.
Did I meet her when I was at Panther Women? Did I meet her in the lobby?
I think you did, but yeah, like it's because I think like when for those young people writing more aggressively political work that has that Gen Z kind of attention span in terms of like its theatricality, they don't know where to send their plays. Like what American theater audience is like ready for that?
Yeah.
You know, like that's I think success to me is like, we got some really strange plays, and we know and the theaters might actually know what to do with them.
I do. I do. I think there's getting ready to be a shift. I really do, that we're going to start paying attention. I think our brains are getting wired differently because of social media. And now that we're on like Zooms all day long trying to work, and yeah. Well, this has been awesome. I just love our chances to talk, and unfortunately, they've been via Zoom over the last several months, but it's so great to see you, and it's so great to know that Prop is going to figure its way through this.
Yeah, you too. Oh my God, we are being thrown the gauntlet because me and Bill started at our theaters at the same time. So.
Yeah. Yes, and I was talking to somebody else the other day, and she'd started her position at like roughly the same time. I was like, you know, it's like she's running an arts council, and it's like, oh my Lord. It's just so much change right now that we're all trying to figure our way through, and then trying to steward these organizations through this. Well, be well, and I'll talk to you soon.